Rafter P Construction is the design-build contractor for all of your construction needs. Quality and customer satisfaction will always remain our top priority. The American dream has inspired the Rafter P team to push to be community leaders and support the local youth because that is our future. Let's now talk with the founder and owner, Brad Pryor.
All right, we're here today with Terren Moore. Moore Farms and Insurance?
Yes, sir.
Well, we're going to talk about your farm life today.
All right.
So, tell us, how did you get started?
So my journey in farming kind of started as a misunderstanding. I joined the FFA when I was a freshman in high school, and I thought I had to be an actual farmer to be involved in the organization. And so I went to my parents the next week later and said, hey, I've got to start growing a garden to start growing some food for my community. And they said, oh, that's kind of random, but okay, because I was never really involved in farming. I was a first generation farmer. And so I grew a garden in the backyard. I grew some watermelon, peppers, squash, zucchini. And I remember bringing some produce to one of our meetings for the chapter as a sophomore in high school. And I saw my friends and I saw their parents and my teacher eat food that I produced. And I said, I want to do this on a larger scale. And so I started farming. I seeked mentorship, borrowed a tractor for several years, borrowed a planter for several years, leased ground, and started growing produce for the Winona community where I'm from. And
The Winona chapter? Is that
yes,
FFA?
sir. Yes, sir.
Cool. Where's that at? For people that don't know Texas.
Yeah, East Texas, Piney Wood Curtin, man.
There you go.
So where Tyler is, we're about 20 miles northeast of Tyler.
Okay.
So
that's a rural area.
it's a rural area.
Right.
Population 560, I think. So pretty
Dang.
small. Yeah,
That's small.
pretty small town.
But you started that to be, so you thought you needed to go in your backyard and start actually being a farmer at a small scale.
Right.
So you're getting ahead of the game, right?
Exactly.
So, and then you're taking that produce and you're feeding the public with it, more or less?
Exactly. So I started selling to church members at first, 'cause I'm a church musician as well, and
What do you play?
drums and piano.
Oh,
Yeah,
sexy.
I love music.
Sexy.
I love music, and so I sold to a lot of people in the church, and then the word has kind of spread that I was a small-scale farmer growing fresh produce, and I got an Excel spreadsheet, and I got names and numbers, and every year I do it, I keep growing every year, and now I just call folks up when it comes time for harvest, and they come pick up the produce and write me a check. So we did a few wholesale deals, mostly individual sales though, as of today.
So that was the small scale of it, and you're leading into what you do today. So today, describe your operation from that small start of a garden to the magnitude it is now.
Right. So
And what it is exactly you grew.
yeah, the biggest thing was diversity for me starting out. I had like 2 crops when I was first starting. I did purple hull peas and I did cream peas. Now I do purple hull peas, cream peas, sweet corn, okra, turnip greens, collard greens. People want a variety of produce when they're shopping for produce in the farmers market or in the grocery stores, and so we want to be as diverse as possible to give as much value as possible to our clients. So now we're at least about 30 acres now. Right now we got sweet corn growing. It's coming along pretty good. It's starting to tassel out as of today, and so we'll start
What does
spraying
that
for
mean?
that.
For our viewers here that are quite sure what that means.
Yeah, tasseling out. Whenever you see a corn plant, there's like these yellow things coming out of the plant, and it's the pollination before the corn is actually growing. So this corn, the stalks underneath there, and the corn continues to grow as the season goes on. So mostly what you see on the highway is field corn, which is used for ethanol and cow feed, but we're doing sweet corn. And so sweet corn is a lot shorter of a plant than it is field corn that you see on the side of the road. So it's kind of a niche market, honestly, but
But the growing
similar.
process is the same?
Similar growing process. Yeah, you see field corn, a higher population, you'll see probably about 8 inches between each plant, probably about 8 to 10 inches between each plant, versus sweet corn, I've got almost a foot between each plant. So not sure if I'm doing it right, but we do lower population to grow bigger ears on the corn. So
Right. So from your start to a garden to where you're at today, you feel like this is where you're going to stay, or you feel like this is a happy medium, or you're going to concentrate on insurance and this is just what it's worked out to be?
I've got a long ways to go, Brad. I've got a long ways to go, man. I'm always seeking new mentors, asking questions, going to conferences with other farmers, and the insurance side as well. But farming is a whole different ballgame when you're on your own and you're growing produce and you're first generation as well. And so I'm thankful for all the mentors I've had in my life who show me how to manage the farm and how to even do the accounting part of record keeping on the farm as well. But we've got a lot of growing to do. I want to be more focused on wholesale down the road, because also running insurance is a timely business, and so it'd be convenient to have more time to focus on the insurance business and have the farm to just do on the weekends versus going during the week and selling to individuals, stopping my other business to go sell to individuals versus having a wholesale market to sell in a grocery store to one person in bulk. So long ways to go though.
Yeah. So what we're trying to accomplish here is talk about different things in the farming industry, and Terren's a local that has done well for himself, and we're trying to give that information to the people that are coming into the industry and help them in any way we can as a company of Rafter P Construction. But we follow those guys that have started from nothing just like Rafter P did, and you've done so well. What advice would you give to a person that's wanting to get into the industry from the garden to where you're at today? What would be their start? What would you recommend?
Yeah, if you're first generation, I would definitely say start on a small scale. For me, I'm 100% cash farming. I don't take out any loans or anything for the farm, and so everything is cash, from the lease to the tractors to the planters and everything, because some years are rough years where we don't get the rain that we need, and you could lose money with having a equipment loan and having the loan on the land and everything like that. And so me being on a small scale, I'm kind of biased by that, but you can maximize profit per acre on a smaller scale than you do if you're first generation doing grain like wheat or field corn or soybeans, for example. A lot more input costs. I mean, if a combine costs $500,000 at best, easily $500,000 for a combine. And so before you even grow a crop, you're already $500,000 in the hole. And
right.
So, but we need our farmers on a large scale too, but if you're first generation, it is a lot harder to do it on a larger scale like that. So I recommend do small scale, feed your local community, feed those who are around you on a small scale. That's kind of my recommendation on that.
So starting from a garden to where you are today, how many acres are you on versus a small garden in your backyard? How much are you actually farming?
Yes,
Just give them an idea of perspective of what you're messing with.
Yeah, we've grown every year. My garden at first was like a 10 by 10 garden, and then I did an acre of peas, and then I did 2 acres of peas, and I did 3 acres, and I just grew every single year. So now we lease 30 acres, but I probably farm about 6 of that 30 acres. A lot of it's in a flood zone, a lot of it is woods and stuff like that, and so about 6 acres of solid production between the corn, the peas, and the greens all together.
Gotcha. This shows that, hey, you don't need a ton of land to do what you're doing.
Not at all.
And a lot of people may have 10 or 20 acres, but that just shows you how doable it can be.
Yes, sir.
But moving on to our next subject, would be what have you done to start the cultivation of the improvements, like what I talk about when you talk about land improvement when it comes to farm and ranch. A land improvement can be anyway from sorting out trees to where you have more grass underneath it to graze cattle on, or put tanks or berms in where you're actually controlling erosion and you're holding water for your animals where you're not feed them out of tap water or water them out of tap water. What did you do to your land to cultivate it to get it started?
Yes,
to
sir.
produce? And what type of land was it?
Yeah, my first crop was a sandy loam soil in East Texas. Actually, my grandma's backyard. That was our first lease. My first lease was, hey, if I farm your land, I'll give you fresh produce for life. So grandma gets fresh produce forever because I farmed her land starting out with a very fair lease. And so
you stand up to that, right?
Of course,
Okay.
of course. Yeah, the family gets fresh produce.
There you
go. Before I do, actually, I don't have a whole lot in my freezer myself, so family first. But the first thing I did in the sandy loam soil was applying lime. The sandy loam has a very low pH, and I had a pH of like 5.5, and so it's pretty acidic. And so we needed limestone to get it to a more neutral basis for the pH of the soil. Out here, I'm more in the black lands, and so it's more of a basic soil. The pH is more of a 8 to 9 pH here, and so for me, I'm focusing more on cover crops now, sustainability, because in between seasons, if I leave bare ground, those nutrients can wash away in the soil if I'm leaving bare ground on the soil. And so we do cover crops such as winter ryegrass and usually turnip greens, because turnip greens I can do a by value product by taking the leaves off, leaving the bulbs, or taking the whole plant after the cover crop season's over. So holding the ground in place for organic matter to hold that, and to hold also the water that we've captured in the soil as well. So that, and just shredding it, keeping it clean, making it look good, you know, for our customers.
But what was there before you started? When you saw this raw piece of land, what was there?
Trees, brush, weeds. And so weed control for me is first we'll do a chisel plow across the ground, get about 8 inches deep into the soil, and then we'll chisel it, let the grass die out, and then run a disc across it to get it nice and smooth. And spray if needed, Roundup. If we have some pigweed, it's a pretty strong weed out here in North Texas.
What is it?
Pigweed. It's like a really ugly weed. Like, it's just a very aggressive weed. Looks like, if you saw it, you would know it's just like a big, just demanding weed. So you gotta spray that sometimes. But for the most part,
It's legal, right?
it's legal. It's illegal. It's a legal weed. It's a legal weed, yeah. But we spray Roundup if needed, but I try not to, just because it costs money for one, and for two, it costs money. And so I try to spray Roundup if I don't have to. But most what I do is just run disc across it, get it nice and smooth with the harrow, and then we plant on 30-inch rows every year. So.
Gotcha. But that's why you got everything started today where it's producing. So you could take a piece of property and you can, how do you test that dirt? You take it to the local USDA? What is that what you did, is
Yes,
give them a
sir.
sample and they kind of tell you what's in your soil, what you need to do to it?
Exactly, yeah. Texas AgriLife Extension actually does a free soil sample for your first year. So you just get a shovel, or there's also a tool you can dig it into the ground and take the soil sample directly from the tool, and they ship it off to the A&M in College Station and get it tested for you, and they mail you the results of the pH. And so your three main macronutrients are nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium, and so you kind of go by that to see what should be added into the soil, where we're lacking at, also your micronutrients such as zinc, magnesium, iron, etc. So the big things of soil test, seeing kind of where your soil conditions are at.
When you send that off and they tell you all that information, and do you tell them what you're doing with it? Do they have a recommendation of what you need to do?
Exactly,
More or less?
exactly, yeah. They have recommendations if you're doing Bermuda grass, if you're doing stuff for hay, if you're doing vegetables, where your pH should be at, what should add, what's important to add for certain crops. If you're doing grains versus, for me, purple whole peas and okra, they understand what you're doing, and so they do make those plants customized towards you.
Yeah. And they're doing that for a reason. They don't want you going there and injecting the wrong stuff in the soil, wasting money, putting it in the streams and the water. Like, that's what most people don't realize about farming, is like, you do see the pesticides, the things being sprayed, but most farmers are trying to do what's the most economical thing to do, but also be, you know, aware of what the things that they are putting out there, what it could do to the water or other things. So it's not like there's people just throwing stuff out there.
Exactly.
Because they're going to lose money throwing it out there, or they're going to damage something. So
But we don't want to waste money, so
No.
yeah.
for sure. But that would lead to the next thing that we talk about when it comes to, you have this equipment, you have your, you know, whatever you're producing. Sometimes you're not particularly producing hay, but there's other people that are. At Rafter P, what we're trying to accomplish is, we have experts like you in the industry. You may not work for me, but you're a friend and you want to help the next person just like somebody helped you. And I have those people available in all different industries, and at Rafter P, we want to make people successful. So, and, you know, invite you to, you know, things that we are producing, or, you know, get your information on how you have this piece of equipment, what's the best way to cover it, you know, for you to keep the stuff off of it. What do you see with, as far as covering your equipment, your tractors, your plows, whatever it is, what's beneficial about covering that stuff?
Yeah, right now I've got kind of a makeshift operation right now. I've got like a little, almost a garage. I keep my tractor in and my plows and everything from the weather, from the harmful conditions outside, of course. Man, really, barn doors are ideal for farmers because, for one, it can go in your favor for taxes, for one, and for two, you can have all your equipment right next to you. When you're sleeping at night, you know where your tractors are at, and it also prevents from theft too. So if you have your high value equipment in the same living area that you're in, you can hear the tractor start in the morning if someone's jacking with it, and it's right by your side. And so I think it's very beneficial for the barn doors because your stuff is right there with you. For me, my farm is 20 minutes away from my house, and so if something happens to my tractor, I don't hear that.
Yeah.
That's a long ways away, and so if it was in the same facilities where I'm sleeping at night, that's peace of mind knowing that your equipment's right there next to you versus being 20 miles away. So that and just having the cover for it outside, having the cover for it too versus being outside. So I run old equipment, but still it needs love and care too.
Yeah.
The paint goes away, the paint washes away, and the lettering starts going off if you have it outside and due to the heat and stuff like that. And so keeping it indoors, keeping it inside is of course ideal for most operations, but it can't always be done. But yeah, I personally like the barn does because you can have your equipment right there within the same household as you.
Well, and I'll let you stretch into the insurance stuff a little bit too. So what is the side of that too? If you're having your equipment covered, do you get any kind of discount on your rate or any kind of stuff like that if you do have stuff like that to cover?
Yeah, there's certain carriers that do give you discounts towards occupations. So there are some carriers that specialize more towards agricultural insurance that our ideal client is a farmer or a rancher. And so not directly towards the equipment, but towards your occupation that you list on the policy. And so also you can also list your equipment on that same policy as your barn dominium. You can list your ATVs, your tractors, even as far as commodities. I had a guy that lists his fertilizer on the policy as a commodity. And so not discounts directly, but it can all be listed under one policy versus having it spread about different carriers and stuff like that.
Right. Like right now we're sitting in my hay barn. We got feed behind us, we got hay. I mean, all that stuff all my insurance policy it's got a certain value to it that if this thing burns down or whatever comes through here and destroys it, then that stuff gets replaced as a dollar value too. Because the farmer can't go with a full year without hay.
Exactly.
You got to go buy it for a premium if it happens in the middle of the winter. If it's not hay season no more, you can't make hay grow during the winter. Exactly. So you got to go out and pay a premium for it. So when you have that in your insurance policy, you can actually replace that stuff.
Yes, sir.
So,
yes, sir.
But I think the biggest thing about being able to store your equipment, tractors, plows, hay balers, trucks, what have you, is not having the UV break down the paint, having it protected from storms. We live in Texas, so, the heat and the hailstorms. My place in Graham just got the crap beat out of it last weekend.
Lots of hailstorms, man.
Lots of hailstorms.
We're in hail country.
Yeah, my shed's tore all up, but my tractor's perfect. So
there you go. That's a win.
Yeah, Raffy P did his job. Anyways, Terren, thank you for coming out.
You bet.
It's always a pleasure.
Thank you, Brad.
And good luck in your endeavors. And I hope this all helped with the farm and ranch industry as far as looking at your commodities and how you do your soil improvements or land improvements. So look forward to helping you grow your business or grow your product. Talk to you soon.